We have the power key to our future plans. We are the real our men and women. Our judgment will be displayed the solely cleansed, straight from the Armenic beings. Yep, it is the ROM is where we stand. Our lifting is, yep, we are the Armenians. This is our planet and we're coming to take it.
Soldiers, Amen, soldiers, put in the work, my body, soul, and third. Soldiers, Amen, soldiers, put in the work, my body, soul, and third. Yeah. It's the Republic of Intellect, just to be a part of it, we call that MENTELLECT. And a continuous community, work for and by each other, rising up with unity. But this ain't nothing that ain't new to me, it's next to me. Definitely it's the best of me, and yeah, it's the death of me. The death of all my old ways, breaking up the chains of my soul into the right ways. This is nothing that can be replaced. No, I didn't come to path, take my seat and can't stay. No, I will never ever fade. It's setting my soldier of armor in his community. Soldiers, Amen, soldiers, putting in the work, my body, soul, and third. Soldiers, Amen, soldiers, putting in the work, my body, soul, and third. I am a soldier for the army of the Lord, moving forward by the mighty omnivorous. This serious business we got for our community. This serious business we living for this unity. The right race raising up the brighter legacy. Bright power, ushering its supremacy. We're spoken now must be held as future prophecy. By the power of arm and we will hold the power seat. We tuned into MENTELLECT and yes we heard the call. We raised up the name of Amen so the beast will fall. We move as one on one path, yes we are the Lord's. Our minds focus steady motion. So
you'll see it up there. Bring it down.
Amen, soldier, put in the work, my body, soul, and third. Soldier, Amen, soldier, put in the work, my body, soul, and third.
By the power of Amen, we embody the Amen beings, moving in the future with a mind of clarity as alignment. So just lay down law and order, building a foundation with the bright four corners. Masterminds are speaking higher, souls are pure fire. We only here to manifest the true mind power channel. Mind is a daily weapon, thoughts of transmission. We here to manifest the true mind power channel. Mind is a daily weapon, thoughts of transmission. Amen, soldier. Amen, soldier. Amen, soldier.
Soldier, Amen, soldier, put in the work, my body, soul, and third. Soldier, Amen, soldier, put in the work, my body, soul, and third.
Such a narcissist. I'm such a narcissist. All right. Let's go. Let's get it. All right. Here we are. Back again. High and Mighty Talks with me, Nuben Menkares, the intellectual Nuben Menkares. Get it straight, put some respect on my name. We are back. We are back. In the name of Amen, by the power of Amen. In Amen we trust. And Amen we thank. And in Amen we continue forward forever. Good evening. And welcome to another installment of High and Mighty Talks with me, the intellectual Nuben Menkares, where we're just sitting back and kicking back and chatting and breaking down and bringing up all of the, breaking up all the things on our topic tonight. All right. We're going to be talking on, what's my topic? What's the difference between logical based knowledge, right? Logical based teaching. Let me turn this down. Hold on a second. What is the difference between logical based teaching and emotional based doctrines? That's what we're going to be discussing today. All right. Seeing myself up here clearly. So let me start off with that, because I'm going to touch on a lot of topics. I was inspired to do this cast because of a conversation I had with a Nation of Islam member, brother by the name of Jibril Muhammad. I don't mean to put your name out there, but we were discussing the image of Fard. You know, that's for those of you who don't know, that's the founder of the Nation of Islam. And they're supposed to be doing a documentary on this guy, Master Fard Muhammad. Those of you in the modern day world may know that name, Master Fard Muhammad, Master Farad Muhammad, because Busta Rhymes, did a rap song, did a song about Master Fard Muhammad, Master Farad Muhammad. And I was kind of puzzled at that because, as far as I know, Busta Rhymes is not a part of the Nation of Islam. I think he used to be a 5%, I don't know. But he did a song about that. He had Rick Ross in there, and I'm like, why is he talking about the Allah of the Nation of Islam? I was just curious about that. But anyway, they had they're doing some kind of documentary. I don't know if the Nation is doing this or whatever. They're doing some sort of documentary on Fard Muhammad. And they had an image of him as looking like a European, a Caucasian. And I questioned that, and I said, in 2023, in 2023, in the 21st century, I meant to say, I said, shouldn't we, as a people who are supposed to be coming out of a state of darkness, a state of blackness, coming out of that state of ignorance, should we be worshiping the images of people who don't look like us, be they Caucasian, Asian, East Indian, whatever? Why are we in 2023 still worshiping images of people who are not us, who don't look like us? You're not going to find anybody else doing that. You're not going to find Caucasians worshiping no image of no Asian. You're not going to find Caucasians worshiping no images of so-called black people. You're not going to find these people doing it. Even though you're Caucasians, they do it in another way when they watch basketball and football games. That's really them worshiping the image of the so-called black man, because that's who really excels at those sports. But that's another thing. Anyway, putting other people up on a pedestal as God, putting the image of other people up on a pedestal as God, that we shouldn't, should we really be doing that if we're trying to be a forward-thinking people? Shouldn't we be putting up our own image? That's really the question I posed. And I also posed the question about his nationality, his race. Again, because I didn't understand how, a black person, so-called black people, like the people in the Nation of Islam, how you can tell your little sons and daughters that the black man is God in one breath, and then you're worshiping in the image of what appears to be a Caucasian. And I only say if it looks like a Caucasian, quacks like a Caucasian, like I say, looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's a duck. I know what I see and what the world sees. Everybody, when they see that picture, they don't think mulatto, they don't think black man, they think a white man. And My thing is this. I'm like, what the Nation of Islam want to do, if that's what they want to worship the image of, which that image appears to be a white man, until you end up trying to tell the story to justify it, to make him half black by saying that his father was a black man, his mother was a white woman. The story around that is bizarre within itself. But because I love the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, I have nothing but love and respect for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and what he did in the Nation of Islam. He put the 40 years work in. You know, it made me question, how is it that you can put the image of somebody up who came supposedly 3.5 years and then left y'all, and here's a man who put in 40 years work, and you don't see that as equal or even more than what this person you're calling God did. And I said, the only reason, anybody could say y'all doing that is because this person is not one of you. He doesn't look like one of you. He looks like the other race that has a historical track record of controlling our people. I keep Caucasians, whites against blacks, or whites over blacks. So I'm like, the last thing, if we coming out of that mindset, that mentality, is we shouldn't be trying to embrace that in any way, shape, or form. But again, this is the Nation of Islam. Again, I'm not disrespecting them. I'm just saying, because the brother seemed like he had an issue. He felt like I was spreading lies about Fard, and I wasn't. I just asked questions. I'm like, this guy looks like Prince Charles. And I'm like, you want to tell me he's not? Again, I don't care. That's their thing. They could do whatever they want. They could believe whatever they want. But don't expect me and other people not to question it if you're promoting it to the public. If you promote something to the public and it is no longer your private business of what y'all believe, then you cannot get mad at people for scrutinizing what it is you're promoting to the public. You can't get mad at that. Like, I can't get mad at people scrutinizing me and MENTELLECT and what I teach, because I'm out here. I'm not promoting MENTELLECT and what I teach just to my followers, my people, and my community. I'm not just promoting. I'm promoting MENTELLECT to the world, to find the bright ones of our people to bring to this message. So I can't get mad at any scrutiny I may get because of that, and that's fine. I'm okay with that. I can stand up to that. I'm a grown man. You see, so he had an issue with me asking the question, but my point in all of that is, when people are emotionally invested in something, when people are emotionally invested in beliefs, when they are emotionally invested in, faith-based teachings, when people are emotionally invested in that, you can't really have a logical conversation with those people. You can't. You cannot have a logical conversation with people who are emotionally invested in a belief or something. It's useless. Once people are emotionally invested in something, all logic goes out the window. You can't have conversations with these people. Let me take a sip of water. Like I said, you can't have logical conversations with people who are emotionally invested in a belief and a theory, the philosophy. And that's the majority of you so-called black people today. You are too invested mentally in philosophies and theories and beliefs that come from your oppressor, that come from the so-called white man. And because you are emotionally attached to these ways of thinking, these limited ways of thinking, these beliefs, because that's what all beliefs are. Beliefs are limited ways of thinking. And why I say they're limited ways of thinking is because if people had the choice to believe in something or to know something, the mass majority of people are going to want to know as opposed to believe. They might not be prepared for the truth that's going to be revealed to them, the knowledge is going to be revealed to them. They might not be prepared for that, but they're going to, at least out from this outset, they're going to want to know the truth rather than believe it. All of these teachings that are being taught to our people, Islam, Christianity, Judaism, Pan-Africanism, spirituality, these are all belief-based teachings. These are all emotional belief-based teachings. These are all emotional, belief-based doctrines. Why do I say that? Because there's no fact in any of the things that are being said in these doctrines. There's no facts that can be proven in Islam, Christianity, or Judaism, or Moorish science got to go up under there because Moorish science is under Islam. Pan-Africanism, spirituality. This is all doctrines and beliefs that are not based in logic. These are emotional things. Again, because all belief is based in emotion. In order to get people to believe something, you have to do something emotionally to the people to get them to believe in it. You have to do something. You have to, like, for example, the Christian who believes in Christ. The Christian off top is not going to just believe before they become a Christian, before they recruited into Christianity. They're not just going to off the top believe in Jesus. You have to program them. You have to spoon feed them. You have to indoctrinate them early. And you have to usually find something that emotionally will connect them to the Jesus story and make them want to be Christians. What is the emotional attachment to Jesus for black people and people in general? The crucifixion. The crucifixion of Christ. Let's have some coffee. The crucifixion of Christ. The crucifixion of Christ is what attracts people to Christianity. The crucifixion of Christ is what attracts people to Christianity. His sacrifice, right? The sacrifice that he supposedly made, the actual torture that he went through, the actual account of him walking on water. These are all things meant to pull at your emotions, or as they say, tug at your heartstrings. These are things meant to get you emotionally invested in Jesus. So by the time they pushing Christianity to you and trying to get you to appeal or get that story to appeal to you, you already signed up because you've been recruited by the story of Jesus. The story of Jesus is a fascinating story, but it is in fact just that, a story. It is the greatest story ever told. How many of you ever seen that picture where they talked about the Jesus story being the greatest story ever told? That right there lets you know that that it was a false account. Because when you say that this is the greatest story ever told, that means they're trying to sell you a false account. And why they do that? They try to get you emotional. They try to get you caught up in that whole idea of being, a sacrifice, and Jesus sacrificed for you. So you got to follow Jesus, and you got to be in the church, and you got to believe in Christ and be a Christian and be in the church and pay dues and pay the Baptist and all this other stuff and pay the tithes and all this other business. So it's all emotional based. It's all emotional based belief. And that is what breeds ignorance in our people. This is why you have 4 or 5 different churches on one block, because they bleed in the life out of the people, because they are promoting lies to the people. When you look at the word belief, you see the word lie in the word belief. The belief in Jesus is a lie. Because let's just say Jesus did exist, which he doesn't. Let's just say Jesus does exist. How is Jesus helping our people? How is Jesus helping black people? How is Jesus helping and protecting black people from racism today and negative treatment today? But yet you always see the people in the damn church, in the black churches, telling you to pray to God and pray to Jesus and whatnot. But that's not helping. That's not helping people when the police are sticking, white racist police is sticking guns in your face. When you got Caucasian boys going into black churches where grandmothers are praying in the name of Jesus, and he opening fire and killing them. You see, where was Jesus at for them? Where was Jesus at when Dylan Roof walked into a church? This animal walked into a church and sprayed these women, these people in church, these church-going people with bullets, killing them, these innocent people. Or so they were supposedly innocent. All right? And what I mean by that is, a lot of times you people that spread religion, a lot of times you doing that because you're guilty of something you did in your earlier life. But I'm going to leave that alone. A lot of times that's judgment you end up getting when things like that happen. But I'm going to leave that alone. And then you people in the church, you so-called black people in the church, you forgave Dylan Roof in the name of Jesus. George Floyd's sister forgave the guy who stepped on his neck. What's the guy's name that stepped on his neck? She forgave him in the name of Jesus or whoever, right? Your God always tells you to forgive. I follow the Lord of vengeance. Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you, an eye for an eye. That's the Lord. That's the true reality of what we're supposed to follow. But I'm going to leave that alone. That's for another time. But you see why we need logical based teachings to replace a lot of this emotional based doctrine. Because again, the emotional based doctrine is what got our people believing in nothing, got our people achieving nothing, have our people out here on the streets selling all kinds of material for the church, for the mosque, for the temple, and all this because of belief. There's a reason why these people ask for the believers. There's a reason why these people ask for the believers to come in and follow. They don't ask for the thinkers. They ask for the believers. See, because the believers will believe anything. They'll believe anything, the minister, the reverend, the imam, whoever. They'll believe anything that he's saying. Number one reason why they'll believe is because they don't usually leave themselves open for questions. So when you as a reverend, a minister, an imam, or whatever, a rabbi, whatever you call it, when you come out and you do your little thing of you teaching class to people and you're talking at people and talking to people and never allowing people to ask you logical questions about what you're teaching them, then you're basically showing that you're not to be questioned. You're putting yourself up on a pedestal not to be questioned. And when you put yourself up on a pedestal not to be questioned, you are doing away with the intelligence of your congregation. You are basically telling your congregation to cut off their intelligence, cut off their ability to think so that they can believe in what you're trying to sell them. And that's wrong, because if you don't have a people thinking together collectively, then they're not going to grow together collectively. And that's why black people are in these little individual pockets. We got Muslims over here. We got the black Muslims over here fighting against other black Muslims. You got the Israelites over here fighting against the other Israelites. You got the Moorish science over here fighting against the other Moorish science. You got the Pan-Africanists over here fighting against other Pan-Africanists and Egyptologists and all that, because all of this is based in belief. This is all based in emotion. And black people, unfortunately, don't know how to follow a logical based teaching that's going to raise them out of that childlike mentality of emotion. They don't know how. That's a flaw in the mind of black people. We don't know how to follow things that's good for us mentally. I mean, black people don't. I don't count myself amongst the black people, obviously. I don't, because I don't think like a black person. I don't think like a black person. I think like a bright person, an intelligent person. I put brightness over that. My skin is not black, so therefore I'm not attached to nothing black. Nothing. So my mind is not black either. My mind is intelligence, brightness first, brightness over everything. So yeah, we need that, because again, all belief does is breed ignorance. That's all it does. All right, let me move on to my next topics. Got a lot of topics to cover, so we're going to be here for a minute. I took a little bit of a break. I just got back from the UK. I was in England and out there doing my thing, teaching my people out there. We got a nice following. We growing as a community. So as we should, as intelligent thinking people, we should grow as a logical and rational people, as a real community. A community that is independent of religion. A community that is independent of God. A community that is independent of the devil. We are simply a people in our American Republic. Or our Republic of America, I should say, that follows laws and orders in our community. That's what we govern ourselves by. I said our people need to be stripped down of. This is the only way you can actually salvage our people, salvage black people, because black people are pretty much dead. Black people are pretty much dead mentally because of these, emotional based doctrines that has killed them mentally. Because whenever the mind is not thinking, whenever the mind is just being used to believe in things and not think about things, then the mind starts to die. The mind starts to die. The intelligence, the ability to reason, the ability to figure, the ability to process starts to die. When you're just being told, believe this, believe that there's some guy Muhammad was in a damn cave somewhere. Believe that there's somebody named Allah in the sky. Believe that a Christ came and died and fell on the cross or whatever. What does that got to do with you today? Almost burnt myself a little bit. But anyway, what does that got to do with you today? Logically, what does that have to do with your life? Nothing. It only has as much relevance as the people who are trying to promote religious doctrine to you and dogma. It only has as much a basis in your life as they're telling you it does. It really doesn't. And you'll find later on in life as you're going forward that a lot of things you were supposed to come into are things that you miss out on. You miss out on because you're putting your mind into emotional based doctrines that do nothing for our people. You see? So now on to the American thing. Because I heard this guy on this mafia channel. He was talking about how he's an Italian guy. He was talking about how, and this is why I was inspired to touch on this. I'm going to touch on all the topics on my wall. This guy was talking about how, Italians, white Italians, he was saying that how, though you got blacks from Ethiopia and I think Ethiopia someplace Nigerians. You got Nigerians over there in Italy who've been living in Italy, right? They speak the language. They speak Italian, right? They're Italian citizens, but they're not Italian by blood. So somebody asked, could they join one of the criminal organizations like Cosa Nostra, the Mafia, and Draga, what all these organizations that the Italians got, these organized criminal organizations. They said, could the Nigerians join that, being that they are Italian citizens who speak Italian? And he said, no, they couldn't join because they're not Italian by blood. That really was his way of saying they're not white, which is, and they're not Italian by blood. They're not Greco-Roman. And that's right. So what he basically was saying was that these Nigerians, though they are Nigerian citizens, they are, Italian citizens in this country of Italy, though they are citizens in Italy, right? And they speak Italian, they can never join any of those organizations because they're not Italian by blood, which brings me to this. How is it that your Caucasians and your Asians and all these other people are able to call themselves American and they're not American by blood? They're not American by blood. Even that individual that was speaking, he'll probably call himself, he would call himself Italian American. That's incorrect. So if these people can't claim to be Italian by blood, then why is the Caucasians, Asians, and East Indians, all these other people coming over here calling themselves Americans by nationality, which is false. Caucasians are not American by blood. They are Europeans who are United States citizens. They are citizens of the United States from Europe. They are not American. Just like the Asians, they are citizens of the United States. They are not American. Because there is an American bloodline. Just like there's a German bloodline, just the people in Germany, if you move to Germany as a so-called black man or Asian, you're not going to be considered German by blood. See, what they don't want you to know in this society is there is an American bloodline. There is an American bloodline. You see, and it's not the so-called Native Americans because they're not indigenous to America. The ones you see, the so-called Mongoloid Indians, and though the white man paid $5 back in the day to make himself put himself on the Doors rolls to be recognized as a Native American, because I told you that's what they've been wanting to do. The Europeans want to become Native Americans. The Europeans want to act like there were no American indigenous people here. They want to try to erase that history so that they can step into our role as the real American indigenous people. They just call themselves Native Americans. Like I said, before they were the Native Americans, they are the American Indians here. The 1828 Merriam-Webster dictionary tells you who the American Indians were. The copper-colored people, us. The copper-colored people, the copper-colored races that were found here by the Europeans. That's who is American by blood, us. We are American by blood. We are American by nationality. I'm talking about you so-called American black people who are not from Africa. You are American by blood. We are American by blood and by nationality. That's what we are. We are American by blood and by nationality. And ain't nobody can claim American but us, really. all these people that's claiming American, they can only do that because they want to push the lie that the real American Indians are gone. They wiped them out. No, they did not. They wiped you out with a pen and started calling us Negroes and black people. So yeah, by nationality, we are American by blood. By blood. Stop thinking of the Caucasians as being American. They're not American. They're European citizens of the United States. The Asians are Asian citizens of the United States. The Hindus are Hindu citizens. The only Americans by blood who are indigenous are us. Please understand that, and please stop preaching this Pan-Africanism for the millionth time. I went on this guy's guy Taharka Bay. He was on there. He was at some African thing teaching. And again, this is why I go back to the whole emotional based doctrines that a lot of people follow. Pan-Africanism is one of those doctrines. Pan-Africanism is one of those emotional based doctrines that black people follow here in America. Why? Because too many of y'all done seen Roots. Too many of y'all done seen 12 Years a Slave and a whole bunch of other slave movies. And that's what convinced you to be African. That is what convinced you to be African. Okay? Or that you should somehow want to connect to Africa. Somehow that you have something to do with Africa. Which brings me to, why is it that black people believe they African here? I got to touch on this one more time. I just got to make this a definitive. The only reason you so-called Pan-Africanists and all you people believe that we came over from Africa and that we African, the only reason you believe that, going back to all the Pan-African so-called black scholars, going all the way back to Garvey, the only reason they believe that we came from Africa is because of one man. One man. This white man called Charles Darwin. Charles Darwin is the only reason why black people believe they come from Africa. That's it. One white man talking about all life started in Africa and that black people, we come from Africa and whatever the case may be, telling that lie that the only place we come from on earth is Africa, which is a lie, which is a bold-faced lie. That's the only reason why they believe that we come from Africa, because a white man said it. The origin of that lie that all of us so-called black people come from Africa, that origin, that lie started with a Caucasian man named Charles Darwin. And it got passed on through Melville Herkovitz and France Boas and guys who raised up, what's the guy's name? W.E.B. Du Bois and Marcus Garvey and all those sellouts and traitors and turncoats that was pushing that lie that the North American Indians, which is us, are really African. You see, that's the lie they want to push, that the North American Indians, meaning us, the North American indigenous Indians, are people who came from North America and South America and Central America, the first ones to inhabit America, who are American by blood through our Mesoamerican ancestry, our Aztec, our Inca and Mayan and Olmec ancestry, which came into America, came in from South and Central America into North America. We first came in here as the Mayans. The Mayans are the real American indigenous people. And through them and the Aztecs, we broke up into different tribes. And this is why you got black people today spread out in different places. But the origin of our American indigenous heritage comes from our Mesoamerican ancestors. So we were always here on the continent of America before anybody. We are the only indigenous Americans. Everybody else is from elsewhere. And that's proven. I don't care who don't like it. I don't care who got a problem with it. You can have a problem with it. And while you having a problem with it, go read the 1828 Merriam-Webster Dictionary of who the real Americans are. And who the fake Americans that came from Europe who calling themselves white people, white Americans that they are. Those are Europeans, man. And they got no right telling nobody to go back to Africa or anywhere unless y'all gonna jump on a boat and take y'all ass back to Europe. They have no right calling themselves American here. Anyway, let's moving on. I'm gonna go on this. What is the real reason why we only see Asians as Indians and the Mongoloids as Indians? You know these pictures they always showing you of the so-called American or the Native Americans. They notice they say Native Americans. Why is it that you only see a picture of these Asian-looking ones and you don't see the bronze-skinned Indians? Why you don't see the bronze-skinned so-called black Indians? Why do they always show you the Mongoloid-looking Indians? And so therefore you think, oh, see, that's how the Indians really look, or the Native American, that's how they really look. Let me tell you something. Those pictures were taken by Caucasians. I'm going to say it again. Those pictures were taken by Caucasians or painted or whatever. That means these people had to be had a relationship with these Caucasians, these Europeans that were taking these pictures. Okay? They sat and took these pictures. Whereas you had a lot of our people, the indigenous bronze-skinned Americans, we didn't mess with the Caucasians like that. We wasn't sitting in front of no camera and taking no pictures. We wasn't doing that. That's why, and it worked out for them because they wasn't trying to promote our people as the American indigenous people after a while anyway. They wanted to promote us as Negroes. You see, so it worked out for them to push this in the history books that these people are the real Indians, right? Or the so-called Native Americans, because these people sat down and allowed them to take pictures because these people were always in unison with the Caucasians, these Mongoloid Indians. This is why they said that this country, the federal government only recognized 5 American indigenous tribes, right? And we know there were hundreds of indigenous American Indian tribes here. Why only 5 did they recognize, and who were the savage Indians that they didn't recognize? Who were the savage Indians? The ones they called savages. They were talking about us. They were talking about so-called black people, the Negroes. The ones they didn't want to recognize as the real American indigenous people. They were talking about us. We are the lost American indigenous tribes that they don't talk about. They only accepted the Mongoloids into that classification as Native American. Not American Indian, Native American. You see, they wanted to do away with that title, American Indian. And they did, for the most part, do away with the title of American Indian, which they replaced with Native American. Now, Native American was a thing that was started by Caucasians who were coming into America who wanted to take on the role of being the American indigenous people. So they started calling themselves Native Americans. This is the same people today. If you look at a lot of these so-called Native American tribes today, look who's at the head of these Native American tribes. You got straight up white boys at the head of these Native American tribes with white boy names. These are people whose great-great-grandparents and them bought into the $5 Doors Act thing of becoming a Native American. Because you know it was a time when you had the Doors Act where you could pay $5 to get on the Doors rolls to be called a Native American. And they would just change your status from being a European immigrant to a Native American. You can look that up. So I wonder now. I wonder this. Well, notice now that we starting to stand up and claim, meaning us so-called black people are starting to stand up and claim who we are as American Indians. How come the so-called Mongoloid Native Americans who are coming at us, calling us all kind of niggers and everything else? You see the racism coming out of a lot of these Mongoloid Indians, but yet they have no problem with the white man claiming to be Indian and becoming a $5 Indian. They don't ever say anything about the Doors rolls, the Doors things, how these Caucasians just came and bought their way into being Native Americans. They never say nothing about that. And these same Caucasians are still in their tribes today, calling the shots, telling them who could get in the tribe, who is native by blood, who's not. The same Caucasians that was on the $5 damn Doors rolls, the European white people, are the same ones who are Indian tribal leaders right now, or Native American tribal leaders right now, the Pretendians. But notice they don't got nothing to say about that. But when we put on the feathered head crown, which is really ours, when we stand up for being American Indians, and we can trace back our lineage to the Mesoamericans, they'll sit up here and tell them, but we lying, we from Africa, y'all need to stop lying, you mad because you ain't got no culture. Which brings me to the next point. Why is everyone vulturing off of our ancient and modern culture? I put up a picture, right? And I was going to originally do this, but I talked on this, but I'm going to touch on this one more time real quick. There was a TV show on FX called The Mayans, right? This was supposed to be about a Latino biker gang. Now, the term the Mayans comes from ancient civilization in Mesoamerica, meaning in Central and South America, of advanced people, right? The Mayans, right? Who built up and lived in civilizations in South and Central America, and were also the first people to come into North America. Now, the thing with that is a lot of these Latinos with the straight hair and the light skin and whatnot, they're sitting here claiming that that's their people, that they're the Mayans. However, when you go and Google Bonaparte Temple, when you go and look at who the Mayans really are in the Bonaparte Temple, those is all black people. So-called black people. Those are the bronze copper colored people. Those are our people. We are their descendants. Those are our people. The Mayans is us. The Aztecs is us. The Inca is us. The Olmecs is us. And I've been saying this. This is how, and we came into North America as the Mayans and the Aztecs. That's how we got here. First people here into North America. Now, why this being known, we got these images out here. Why are they still trying to push the Mayans as Latino and trying to take the image of how the Mayans look with the bronze copper colored skin and the woolly hair, and they trying to make them into Latinos with straight hair and light skin? Answer: because these people are vulturing our culture. Just like they vultured out American Indian culture by trying to push it to the Mongoloids who came and crossed the Bering Straits and came over here and mixed in with our people who were already here before the white man, before they came here. We was here. We was always here in America. Okay? But because they come from nothing, and this is my thoughts on it, because these people really come from nothing, and it's not even my thoughts, it's a fact, it's reality. I'm going to just say it like that, because all you got to do is trace back their history. Because these people come from nothing, because they don't have any real culture, just like the Europeans that came over here from America, like George Washington and all them people that came over into America, when America was at one time considered a penal colony for England and Europe, where they would just send a lot of criminals over here. A lot of these people, if you notice, George Washington and them, they will not trace their family. This country will not trace George Washington's family back into England. They will not trace them back into England because they're going to find out that the name Washington was a name he picked up when he came over here from the Washita Indians. They'll find out that George Washington picked up that name Washington, where he mixed his name Wessington, which is his original family name, with the name Washita, which is the Washita Indians, and he became Washington. You see, they would mesh in with us, and they would try to become us as a way of ingratiating themselves into the land. You know, like how white people do when they see our people singing music, R&B, jazz, hip-hop, blues. You know how white people do when they come around us and they try to start dancing like us and acting like us. They try to start mimicking us, even though they look crazy as hell, a lot of them. They try to act like us. That's the same way the English did when they came over here. They started mimicking the American indigenous people, meaning us, the American Indians. They started wearing the feathers in their hair. A lot of them started being amongst our people because we were the premier people here in America. We were. Not even the Mongoloid Indians who lived on the plains, because they just came over here and copied us. They seen our culture and copied us. I'm going to show you how that's being done in modern day time. When the BET Awards, the last BET Awards, they tried to push Fat Joe, who is a Latino. He's not so-called black man. He's a Latino. They tried to push Fat Joe as a rap icon or whatever the case may be. They didn't invite so-called black artists who've been in this game, who started the rap game. They got Fat Joe, who don't even rhyme no more. And they tried to make him some kind of icon. Why this was done is because the people that run BET are Viacom. These are Caucasians, right? Who always try to push us out of our culture in some way, shape, or form. And they will use these groups, these tethered groups, or these different groups, these Latino groups, these Asian groups, to push them into our culture. They will use them to push them into our music. They will use them to push them into how we speak, how the things we invented. Like this guy, this clown, John Leguizamo, who's going around here trying to claim that Latinos built America and did this for America and fought in every war in America. That's a damn lie. The people that did all that, the people he's describing is us. That what he's doing is basically vulturing our culture by trying to replace the things we did in America as the American indigenous people, as the real Indians, by putting Latinos in that look like him. They got that Caucasian in them. That's what he's trying to do. They're trying to vulture our culture by using these Latinos, using these Asians and other people to vulture off of our culture. Trying to rap like us, talk like us, act like us, But the minute if we start walking around trying to act like them and we start acting so-called Asian, they'll say we racist. But they'll turn around, yeah, what's up, son? It's like the guy China Mac. You see, these people, like I said, they vulture our culture and then turn around and act like, oh, you know, it's for everybody. Our culture is for everybody, but their culture is for them. Our culture is for everybody, which is American indigenous culture, but their culture is for them. Right. Make that make sense to me. Like this guy right now, Kevin Hart. Kevin Hart was going back and forth with these Arab Egyptians over there, right? In Egypt. Kevin Hart, the actor Kevin Hart, was going back and forth with them because he said that the ancient Egyptians, which were the Kemites, were bronze copper colored people. And yes, they were. They were our people. Yes, they were. The ancient Egyptians, or the Kemites, which was really their name, and that land was called Kemet, was bronze copper colored people, our people with afros and woolly hair. They tried to turn around because he told the truth. Now you got these pale Arabs over there talking about, oh, you trying to Afrocentritize, or whatever they say, Afrocentritize ancient Egypt, and the Egyptians are not black. Let me tell you something, them white Egyptians over there, they are racist as hell. They're just like the racist Caucasians over here. They're just like them in that they want to bury our history. Here it is. You got clear images of bronze copper colored people on those walls, so-called black people with afros, braids that don't look like them, but they're going to sit up here and try to claim that as they people and say those are Egyptians. What does it mean to be an Egyptian, first and foremost? The word Egyptos is a Greek word. All right? And y'all, the Egyptians are that, those people back then didn't even call themselves Egyptians. They called themselves Kemites or Kemits or Kemetians. They called themselves, that's a fact. You can't get away from that. So by trying to use the modern term of Egypt or Egyptian, which is fairly modern as opposed to what they call themselves, and you trying to link them in with your culture, which is Islamic culture, okay? The people back then were not Muslims and they were not Arabs and they didn't follow no Islam. So how the hell are you trying to link them in with your white Egyptian Arab culture? Y'all came later as part of the invasion of people that was over there, and you just came on and took over the land when our people left out of that land. And you and you still got people over in that land in ancient Egypt when y'all racist as hell against them. You are not the original people of that time. And again, that got started because Jada Pinkett and Netflix is trying to promote this Cleopatra thing, right? This Cleopatra, well, I don't know if it came on yet, but it's really nothing but Jada Pinkett promoting some bedwenchery. They're just pushing the black woman Cleopatra with a white man. That's all that is. The Greco-Romans, they just pushing bedwenching. That's all they pushing. The black female with the white male. That's all the reason why they pushing that on Netflix. Okay? And the so-called Egyptians, the modern day Egyptian, Arab Egyptians got a problem with that because they want to call our ancient culture their culture. You know why they want to do that? You know why they want to do that? Because they don't really have a culture. Everybody wants to steal from our culture because they really don't have one. The Europeans don't have no culture because if they did, they wouldn't have just came over into America and just say, oh, F Europe, F where I came from, I'm American now. You ask the average Caucasian right now, they'll try to lie and say they Native American. Oh, I got Native American in me. But then when you ask them, well, where did your family come from in Europe? They'll act like they don't know. And then you push them. Then they'll say, oh, well, my family originally come from Ireland. Then you're Irish. You're not American. You're Irish by blood. Next. Where your family come from? Oh, well, we look back and my family's Scottish and, you know, and then you're Scottish. Or we're Scottish and French. Then you're Scottish and French. You're not American by blood. You are Scottish and French. Stop trying to bury your European heritage and trying to make something else out of what it is. Because that's all you're doing. You're trying to bury your European heritage. You want to bury your European heritage because there's really nothing there for you. There's nothing there that you could really hold on to. Because if you did, why are you coming here and you want to be American so much? Why you want to replace the American people here? Why is it that y'all just can't say what y'all really are? You're European citizens of the United States. You're not Americans. You're European citizens of the United States because the real Americans are still here. The Americans by blood, the indigenous Americans are still here. I'm an American indigenous citizen of America. Born and bred in America. I'm American Indian. I'm American indigenous. This is how the American Indians look, like this, with this kind of hair. So stop with the nonsense. Stop with the foolishness. Don't fool yourselves. Oh, if you like the jersey, we're going to be selling these serpent jerseys, these serpent basketball jerseys. You know, as a ode to our culture from the Underlord Company, we're going to have these serpent jerseys up. They're going to be like probably $75 for these serpent jerseys. So those who want to make an order, we're going to have these links in. So now to the next, on to the next. Let me see. Hold on 1 second, getting up these topics. Let's see. Give me a second. Bear with me. Was this modern day society built from jealousy of the jealousy of the white man on our people? Was this modern day society of the United States of America built on jealousy of our people? Yes, it was. Yes, it was. Why do I say that? Because, you know, our people, history is never really told the real history of our people here in America and our up to our invasion by the Europeans into our country, because that's really what it was. They always trying to make it seem like Europeans discovered America, instead of saying what it really was is that they invaded America. They didn't discover anything because there were people already here. Discovery means that you find something that no one is using. No one is using the resources here. Then that's how, notice that that's how they always promote America. Like the white men make it seem like, oh, he just got off the ship and there was some few savage Indians and they looked mongoloid looking with straight hair. They wasn't black. There was some savage Indians and they all sat down and ate Thanksgiving dinner and they started buying up the land and this, that, and the third, and he started lying, and, you know, there was really nothing here, and then they just started just planting tobacco and setting up the government because there was nobody here to really be considered American people, to be considered citizens of this society. That's a damn lie. Our people were here. Our people were here in North America, South America, Central America, the West Indies. Our people were all over the Americas, everywhere. That's a lie. We were here as the indigenous Americans or the American Indians. We were here. We were living on these lands in the southern areas and all of the New York area, southern area, all over Texas. What was Texas? Our people were all over America living. You see? And we were living in communities, tribal communities, but we were living in communities. And we had a loose-based association, the Confederacy, what we dealt with each other and whatnot. And that is how the Caucasians came here and found us. As the Europeans, they came and they started adopting a lot of our ways of living, and they brought their European ways over here, and some of that meshed in. They brought some black Europeans over here, in fact, as well. So, again, the narrative they try to tell is that they came here and there was nothing. There was something here. Because, see, to admit that there were people here living on the land, farming the land, harvesting the land, growing on the land, building on the land, doing all these things. So then when you come here, or you looking like it's what you really were, a scavenger. You came here scavenging off of other people, because that's how the Europeans came into America. They didn't know what they was doing. They didn't know how to farm. They was just trying to get the hell out of Europe because, again, they were using America as a penal colony, was just dumping them off here in America, and they were just happy to get out of the prisons in Europe. They didn't care about coming here and just running wild and spreading the diseases like they did, right? They didn't care about that. They cared about getting out of those jails in Europe and England and coming over here where they could start all over again, just run wild amongst our people. So a lot of them were brought over here that way, right? And they notice they never talk about how the Asians, males, came over here as slaves as well, indentured or whatever you want to call them, as well as Caucasians came over here as slaves or indentured people, because they needed people here to work the land. The Caucasians that were coming over here, they needed people to work the land, along with the people who they contracted out with to work on the land. And then they start trying to build up their society. But everything was based on a hatred for our people, because at the time, our people had all the land. We knew how to grow and harvest on the land, which is why they enslaved our people on this land, because we were growing and harvesting the land for these Europeans. And we created the economy here because of what we grew and harvested in the South. There could be no United States without without the economy being built up by slave labor. And the slave labor wasn't picking cotton. It wasn't just picking cotton. It was growing cotton. It was harvesting, growing food, tobacco, sugar. All these things our people already knew how to grow because we was using it before the white man came here. We was already doing this. We was already smoking tobacco, natural tobacco, smoking marijuana, harvesting cotton. We was wearing clothes. They want you to think our people's running around here in America as Indians, butt naked. It gets cold in America. You really think our people didn't have clothes on? We didn't make clothes? It gets cold in America. Who's running around in North America with no clothes on, with just covering up your private parts and no shirts on? It gets cold here. So that's our people that started utilizing the land. And the Europeans saw that, and because they didn't have a foothold in on it, they didn't know how to work the land, they didn't know how to grow the land coming from a whole different society, they used the indigenous people here as the slave labor. Our people. They did not take us from Africa. And I was also checking out this video where they had this so-called the Native Americans, again, the Mongoloid Indians, and they were showing how they was owning slaves. Let me explain how this happened. Because our people were fighting with the European invaders, because our people were fighting with the European invaders who were trying to take our land and come in and set up their gentrified society, their colonized society, the Mongoloid Indians who we didn't really deal with, who vultured our culture earlier, who scavenged off of us, who crossed the Bering Straits and came over into America from Mongolia. You can look all this up. They saw our people here and they started vulturing off of our culture. They got with the so-called white man against us and started fighting against us. And they got guns, the Europeans got guns, and they gave the Mongoloid Indians guns as well. Because that's how, whenever you see them old movies and you see the Mongoloid Indians with guns and rifles and stuff like that, they got that from the white man to fight against us. Who the white man called the savage Indians. In other words, they took the Mongoloid Indians to fight against us, the Mongoloid Native Americans to fight against us, the American Indians. Because again, there was jealousy for our people because we were harvesting the land, growing on the land. We had our own sections on the land, and they didn't like that. And so they went about destroying our towns. And again, this just didn't happen in the 20th century. It was happening in the 17th century, the 18th century, the 19th century. They would destroy places where we would set up our towns, our outposts, where we would farm our land, live on the land. And we would always have to fight against these Europeans who were coming in with the government, with the army, with the Asians to rape, rob, and pillage our land. And that's what they did. They raped, robbed, and pillaged our land. That's how the United States got started, off of the rape, robbing, and pillaging of the American indigenous people's land, meaning us, who are falsely being called black people today. And you so-called Pan-Africans, y'all are nothing but, I'm going to be honest with you, because y'all don't want to acknowledge this reality of what happened to our people here, because y'all so caught up in this Africa thing and you can't deal with the truth of what really happened to our people. You are a big obstacle in the way of the damn truth. You so-called Pan-Africanists. You are a big obstacle in the way of truth for our people. You see? And y'all so goddamn phony because I never see you guys. Y'all want to wear all the black, red, and green and talk all this Sankofa nonsense. You talk all this stuff, but half you guys ain't never been to Africa, and you ain't changing your names to no African names. Okay, you think because you put on your little kente cloth and your little costumes and things like that, that make you somehow African. You think that makes you African. Then while the real Africans is laughing at y'all. The real Africans trying to come over here and act like American niggas. Real talk. The real Africans sitting around here laughing at y'all. They ain't wearing none of that kente cloth. They wearing 3-piece suits. They're wearing cologne now. And they'll tell you they African. They'll tell you you not African. They'll laugh at you with your little kente cloth on. That whole Pan-African thing is nothing but another damn a belief-based doctrine, just like another religion created here in America. That's what Pan-Africanism was created here in America. It has nothing to do with Africa. It's just a bunch of simple-minded, blind Negroes who done got brain stained into believing they come from Africa. Partly due to people like Marcus Garvey, who was a sellout. Partly due to people like W.E.B. Du Bois, who all of them was pushing a Caucasian agenda. That's why y'all believe y'all come from Africa. Again, we can't get with people who are sitting up here following lies, man. We can't get with people who sitting up here following lies and want to keep lying to our people because you got an emotional attachment to the lie. We can't keep getting with people who got an emotional attachment to the lie. If you want to do that, hey, man, do what you do, man. Do what you do. I don't care. Do what you do. But don't sit up here and include us in your garbage. Don't sit up here and say we all African and we come from Africa. We are not. That is a lie. It's been debunked. Shout out to Dane Calloway, Caremio, and all of the people who are bringing out these facts of who we are as the real American indigenous Indians. Not Native Americans, but the real indigenous American Indians. Shout out to them. Let me see. Were black slaves captured American Indians fighting for their land? I said that. Yeah, the so-called slaves you see, these are American Indians. When they show you our people being captured, you know how they always show you in roots, they always make you think it's Africa where they capturing the people and putting them on slaves. No. What they're doing is they're showing you American Indians or American indigenous people being captured in North America and being put on ships and sent up and down the river to be sold in auctions on auction blocks. Captured Indians, people who got captured in war, fighting against the Caucasians, the Europeans, and your Mongoloid Indians. Okay? Those are the people who were captured. Those were the people that were sent to auction blocks, sent up to New York and whatnot, and sold on auction blocks to Europeans. You see, because they got that system going. And they wasn't just selling a bunch of cotton pickers. They were selling people who were blacksmiths, people who were carpenters. They were selling people who were skilled labor, women who were seamstresses. That's what they were selling. Now, you can't be a so-called African and have those skills. Okay? There wasn't no Africans that had that. They wasn't bringing on over no Africans to have that skill. In order for the skilled people were the people who were indigenous to this land. And they just threw them in slavery. That's all. And in fact, a lot of the people, when the free people, a lot of our people who were free, the Europeans, they tried to put them on boats. You can look this up. In fact, they did put a lot of them on boats and sent them into Africa. So a lot of you people who are in Africa who look like us here in America, but you think you African, you need to go back and check your family tree, because a lot of y'all think y'all African, y'all really not. A lot of you came from America. A lot of your ancestors you're gonna find got put on ships and sent from America into Africa. You can look that up, because one of the things they were saying, I forgot, I saw this video was talking about how and it was the government at the time, I forget, they said that they wanted to take free Negroes here in America and send them to Africa, and because they said what happened was they had already colonized Africa. Okay, the Europeans already colonized pretty much all of Africa. They pretty much colonized Africa. So they was like, well, why don't we send these free Negroes to Africa? And they did send a bunch of free Negroes to Africa. They don't talk about it. They sent them to Africa before Liberia. They were sending them over there as missionaries and trying to get them to promote Jesus to the rest of the people. But a lot of people got sent over into Africa. And when they claim we came from West Africa wasn't even inhabited at that time in those areas. There wasn't nobody even there. So again, when they showing you our people going and fighting against the so-called white man getting captured by other tribes, what they mean is the people, because you had this amongst our people too. You had bronze indigenous people who were fighting against each other, like how you gangs do, y'all gang banging. You had the Indians doing that, and some of y'all would go against and capture this indigenous tribe, and you would go and push them over to the white men and sell them. So a lot of that tribal stuff, a lot of the slavery stuff was going on here in America, not Africa. Not Africa. Because we proved to you that they didn't even have the ships to bring slaves over here. They had what equates to being boats. They didn't have no ships back then. Ships didn't come about until the 1850s. Real cargo ships didn't come about in this country to the 1850s. And they cut off the importation of Africans into America in 1809. And the ones that, 1808. And the ones they did, was it 1808? Yeah, 1808. They cut off the importation of African slaves into America in 1808. And the ones they did bring here were mostly dropped off in the West Indies. So the majority of people that are here in the America are American indigenous people. They were always here. That's over damn near 100% of the people. Again, that little drop of African who made it here that was so small that they're so insignificant. Let me see. And going back to these so-called Native Americans that were allowed to own the American Indians, what they call the slaves, who were the American Indians of the savage tribes, as they say, that they caught, because they were calling our people savages because we was fighting with the Caucasians for a long time, like hundreds of years, like a few hundred years before they took hold of America in the 1800s. That's when they really took hold, in the mid 1800s. They started taking hold. But when they was coming over here, like in the 1600s and stuff like that, they didn't really have nothing set up here, man. They didn't really have no foothold here. They was trying to set up a foothold here amongst their people, but they really didn't have no foothold here because our people, you know, the American Indians, our American indigenous people was fighting with them, tearing up their settlements, raiding their settlements. That's why they hate our people to this day, because we was those savage Indians. We was the ones running down into they little settlements, they little gentrified settlements, and tearing up their shit, taking their women, their children, taking them out. We was doing that. We did that. It wasn't the Mongoloid Indians. We was doing that. Okay? We was killing them and taking their stuff, because they would come and do that to us. They would come to where we would set up, and they would come with their guns and get off and just start raiding our thing. So it was a lot of war going back. The Indian wars, there were several Indian wars. Those Indian wars that they talk about, those big Indian wars, was us fighting against Caucasians. It was not the Mongoloid Indians. Don't believe that lie. Because the Mongoloid Indians was the ones helping the so-called white man against us. The Mongoloid Indians was helping them. So how is it that these people, you supposedly saying that y'all was having big wars back and forth with them, but yet then they turn around and they taking so-called black people and putting them in slavery, and y'all working with them, and you allowing them to own slaves and be considered civilized, right? Because that's why the white man allowed them to be quote unquote so-called civilized, because he needed help with the so-called American indigenous, the Indians who was fighting them back. They needed help. They needed people that were here already that knew the land, and that was your Mongoloid Indians. So they ended up helping them, and they worked against us. Kind of like how they got it right. See how everything repeats itself? Like a lot of these Latinos, right? A lot of these Latinos, you would think because they always talk this black and brown coalition, but then you find out that a lot of these Latinos, like your John Leguizamos and your Fat Joes, they'll flip on us in a heartbeat. They'll sit around here and act like they down with us, and they, you know, I got a black abuela, black grandma, whatever the case is. Then they'll turn right around and be with the so-called white man. They'll turn right around on us and get with the so-called white man, start calling us morenos and niggers and everything else, watermelon, monkey, calling us all kind of names, right with the so-called white man. You see, they have a kindred spirit with the so-called white man, because they got the same dog fur. Raw and uncut. They do. They all got that straight hair. You know, the hair to get the fleas and ticks in it. We ain't got that. We ain't the same people. Keeping it real all the way with y'all. If there were only 5 recognized native tribes by the U.S. government, where were the rest of them? Because you had a lot of tribes that you don't even, people whose names pop up, tribes that you don't even hear about. It's more than just the Cherokee, the Choctaw, and all that. Those are your recognized federal tribes of Native Americans. What happened to the rest of the Indian tribes? Answer, you made them into African Americans and Negroes. That's what happened to them. You wiped them out with the stroke of a pen. That's what happened to them. You reclassified them. And now they sitting around here thinking they Africans. Now they don't have no hold of their real culture. Right? Why were the 5 so-called Native American tribes allowed to own black slaves? Because simply, these people helped the white man in capturing our people fighting against our people and turning our people into the Caucasian. So as a reward, they were allowed to own the real American Indians. They were allowed to own our people because they helped the so-called white man against our people. That's why today, even to this day, the descendants of those people are those so-called recognized Native American nations. They're given reparations because of their help in fighting against the American indigenous people, meaning us. That's why they were allowed to own slaves, because they helped the so-called white man against us. All right, and I'm gonna show you how you know the so-called Mongoloid Indians. They're not native to America. The so-called Red Indians are not native to America because the Red Indians were using the so-called black people, the so-called the copper-colored people, right? The copper-colored real American people, that, you know, in the Merriam-Webster dictionary, because again, that proves you're not talking about the Mongoloid Red Indians, because the people who are described as the real Americans are the copper-colored people. Those people are not copper-colored. They're red. Those Indians are red like the white man. They're red like him. They get red in the face. We the only ones with copper-colored skin. But anyway, how you know the Mongoloid Indians are not native to this land, the ones you see today, which are really Asians? How you know they're not native to this land is because when they had so-called black people in slavery, the American indigenous people, they had them doing all of the same work the white man had them doing, like harvesting the cotton and all the stuff in the fields, working the fields. They had to have bronze indigenous people working the fields because they didn't know how to do it. Now, my question is this, because you've never seen a so-called Native American farmer. Very rarely have you seen it. They might have that now, but back then they didn't have that. They got trained to work the land just like the white man did. Our people trained the white man and showed them how to grow on the land, because they didn't know how to grow nothing here. Just like the so-called Mongoloid Red Indians didn't know how to grow nothing here, because they never lived on the land. They lived off the land, meaning that they lived like on camping grounds. They would just hunt buffalo and trade fish and trade off and get whatever vegetable, whatever. But mostly theirs was a heavy meat diet. They didn't really grow vegetables. They would 9 times out of 10 go to our people and trade meats for vegetables and things like that. But they wasn't an agrarian society. So how is it that you're supposedly native to America and you don't know how to farm the land in America? The Mongoloid Indians didn't know how to farm no land in America. That's why they had slaves. That's why they had slaves, and we created an economy for them through our slave labor. So they owe us money really as well, these Mongoloid Indians. And reparations, if we're talking about that. So that's why they were allowed to own. And again, that just showed you they're not native to this land. They Asians, man. All right. All right. Why must we watch out for black people who seek validation from racial outsiders? Why do we got to watch out for those kind of people? Answer: because those who seek racial validation today are the same ones who will be selling our people out tomorrow. You people that sit up here and talk about going to the government, and you got to be careful with that. These people sit right here talking about going to the government and trying to get reparation. Not reparation, because we do deserve that. I'm not going to never knock reparations down. Our people deserve that. Black people deserve reparations. But when it comes to looking for validation to be reclassified as American Indians or American Indigenous, why would you go to the very people that misclassified you on purpose in the first place? Why would you go to this government who are not interested in trying to classify us as American Indigenous people? They want to classify us as black people, as Negroes, as African Americans. They made up these false titles so that we would be in a state of confusion. But they did not expect that confusion to start to wane, and they didn't expect us to wake up. So now we're waking up, and you would think you woke. You stop with this, we're going to go to and get reclassified as Indians. No, we're not. I mean, y'all can go ahead and do that, but good luck with that. Good luck with that. We need to get validation within ourselves. We don't need the government to validate us. We don't need the American or the United States government to validate who we are as a race, because they are the ones who misclassified us. They did that on purpose so that we wouldn't know who we are. So why are you going to go to these same people and try to get them to change over and start doing the right thing? They ain't interested in doing the right thing. They're interested in keeping us away from who we are, not knowing, letting us have the true knowledge of who we are. They're interested in that. They're interested in lying to our people to keep this thing that they call a society, a government going. That's all. I'm looking for them for now. We need to get we need this acknowledgement for ourselves so we can come together collectively based on this reality of who we are as the American indigenous people. We American by blood. We are the only red-blooded Americans. We the only red-blooded Americans. And all the lies, all the USA and all the lies and all the flags up, that flag that's up, it's not an American flag. It's a European flag. Because George Washington and the people that created that flag are not American. So you cannot create an American flag if you're not American. That's like I gave that example again of the Nigerians over who in Italy who could speak Italian and they are Italian citizens. That's like them saying, we're going to create an Italian flag because we Italian citizens and we speak the Italian language and we Italian citizens. We recognize Italian citizens. No, them people will kill them. They would not allow the people who are Italian by blood would not allow people who are not Italian by blood to say what their flag is going to be. They would not allow that. They would not allow people who are not Italian by blood to say what the flag is going to be. So how is it that you people who are American by blood, meaning you so-called black people, you so-called African Americans, though you're not African, why would you sit up here and put a flag up that's not even an American flag? That's a European flag. That's an English flag, if anything. That's an English flag. That is not an American flag because these people who put it up are not Americans. You can only be American by blood, by nationality. So the same way that is in Europe and all over any place is the same way it is here. It's supposed to be here. But enough of y'all ain't saying that. Enough of y'all, when you hear the word American, you think automatically Caucasians. That's incorrect. They're Europeans. We're the only Americans here. Again, I don't care how much you try and lie about it and try to wish your way into being American or claim to scream. You can scream all you want to it. It's not going to change the fact that y'all not American. No. And I touched on about our people, indigenous bronze Americans being taken to Africa, and now they believe they African. I touched on that. That really did happen. And a lot of them were made to work over there. Is hatred and racism against black people really based in jealousy? Yeah, I touched on that. Yes, it is. Because again, people hate us because we are the real Americans. People hate us because we are the real indigenous people. Get this nonsense out of y'all head that we come from Africa. Let me explain something to you again. This is what happens when you push belief over logic and rational thinking. You make yourself stupid. When you see the type of behavior that we incur here in America, when you see the type of behavior, how we get treated here in America, when you see that, that cannot be because we came from Africa. That cannot be because we were picking cotton. That cannot be because of anything else. Ask yourself the question. Why is it, what is America, what does the United States government have against black people? What is the United States government, what are these Caucasian Europeans of today who calling themselves American? What is the hatred that they have against our people? What is the hatred that they have against our people? We didn't do nothing to them. We did nothing to them. They did everything to us. Shouldn't we hate them? They put us in slavery. They put us in ghettos. They took our land. You see, the slave masters raped our women. They dehumanized, so-called dehumanized us, all this stuff. They degraded our people. So shouldn't we be hating everybody? So you saying we came from Africa and only thing we did is, according to y'all, we came from Africa as slaves and we were getting all this terrible treatment. So what is the reason for this? You can't say, oh, because you so-called black people rob and steal and you in the hood. That's a damn lie. Any crime that's committed by so-called black people is usually committed on another black person, which has nothing to do with you. And you white people commit a lot of crimes here in America too. Well, a whole lot that they don't arrest you for. But that's beside the point. So-called black people have done nothing direct to you white people or anybody else for you to hate them. So why do you hate them? Answer, because you're jealous of them. That's the only reason. People hate up, they don't hate down. People hate you because there's something about you that they wish they had, that you had, that they wish they had. That's the only reason I can think. People hate you for jealousy. You can't hate us or hate you because of something you did to them. What did we do to them? We had the audacity to be the real Americans. We had the audacity to have this beautiful copper-colored skin. We had the audacity not to not sit up here looking sick and sickly and pale. We had the audacity to have this nice, beautiful woolly hair and not have fur. We had the audacity to have supreme genetics. That's really what they mad about. That's really what they mad about. We had the audacity to have supreme genes. How dare we have these good genes? How dare we have the best looking women on the planet? How dare we have come in all kinds of pretty shades of bronze? So, and you could tell there's a hatred for it, because how you look at all these beautiful bronze colored people, these copper colored people, and then turn around and call them black people? That's hatred right there. You call them all kind of names. They got all kind of names for our people. Porch monkeys, watermelon pickers, niggers, all kind of names. They think that's hatred. That's personal. And that personal hatred is only by way of jealousy. Because if nobody directly ever did anything to you or to your people, then why do you hate them so much? That proves that we, the American indigenous people, their hatred for us does not match that of a hatred for an immigrant. We supposed to technically be immigrants here in America as so-called African slaves that were brought here. So where's the hatred for? I want all you so-called educated, black, conscious, pro-black people to ask the question. If we came from Africa, like you say, then why is there so much hatred for our people here in America? They don't even have that much hatred for real Africans. Africans who are over there for real. They don't got that much hatred for them. So why the hell do they have hatred for us? Because we're the real Americans. That's why. And they want our place, and they hate the fact that we are starting to wake up to it, that we always are here. And that was always the threat, that the real American indigenous people are here. And that the fake ones are trying to take our place. You see, they've been trying to take our place ever since they got here into this land. And that's where the hatred comes from. Wake up. Let me check, see what else I got here. Is the black race dead or alive? Sorry to say, the black race is dead. Why? Because death starts first and foremost in the mind. When you're no longer required to think, when you are no longer required to figure out and process things, when you are no longer required to ask questions, when people are trying to get you to believe things and not question things, they're taking away your judgment. And when people take away your ability to judge things, to logically break down things, when people take that away from you, they're taking away your intelligence, and therefore they are killing you mentally. And once people start killing you mentally by getting you to believe things, then it's eventually a step toward killing you physically. Look at all the propaganda the beast done pushed out here to get y'all doing what y'all doing, the jab, taking the jab, all that stuff. Look at y'all killing yourself because you believe in the beast. You killing yourself because you believe in the beast. You killing them, but you killing yourselves because you believe in what they taught you about yourselves, that you came over here on slave ships, that this ain't your country. Why do you think black people act the way they do in this society? Black people act the way they do with this cutthroat killer mentality toward each other because y'all ain't got no real knowledge of yourself. And a lot of you are so gone, you don't even want no knowledge of yourself. You just want to believe in what your slave master implanted in your head. You want to believe that you Christians, that there's somebody called God and Jesus for you. Nobody can judge you. You under grace. I wonder if heaven got a ghetto. Whatever nonsense go through you niggas' heads, man. And I call you niggas only because that's how our people act. And the term nigger is really more of a compliment because the white man was calling us niggardly people, stingy people. That's where that term come from. But anyway, because our people are no longer thinking, a lot of them are just dead on arrival. A lot of them are DOA. A lot of them are unable to, process anything real in this society. And that's a fact. But let me see. Make sure I touched all my questions. I think I'm pretty much done for my topics. Let me make sure. All right. In my chat room, do anybody got any questions? Is anybody watching the chat room? Let me see if there's any questions before we close out. Because you know me, I get in here, I like to go about and do what I got to do and then get in and get out. All right? Okay, I heard, are the modern day, say it again?
Are the modern day Mexicans illegals being housed in the hotels the same as the Asians that squatted off the land back then?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. Yeah, pretty much. They're being housed, a lot of these Latinos are being housed in these hotels, and they're really being given a new life as a way to try to replace our people here in America. That's really why they bring a lot of these Latinos and all these people from these different places as a way to replace our people in our neighborhoods. Just look in your neighborhoods, whether you be in New York, Philadelphia, D.C., you'll see all these immigrants coming into your neighborhood because they're trying to replace you. Okay? And let me ask this question real quick while it's on my mind. They claim, this is in this side, they claim the so-called black people, they claim the so-called black people are a minority here. They say that we're about 11% of the population. At one point I heard we 13%. Now we went down to 11. That's funny. But okay, they say that we only 11% of the population. If that's true, if that's really true, why do you, and that would mean that we like a little fringe group. That would mean so-called black people are like a fringe group, that we're not, we don't even matter. We so much of a minority, we don't matter. So if that's really true, then why are we profiled as much? Why are we profiled? Why is so much negative energy on us? According to y'all, if we're not that big in number, why is there so much energy on us to destroy our communities or whatever communities we try to build, try to redline us, try to profile us, racially profile us, lock our people up? You could tell that there's a wholesale focus to destroy our people here in America, as it has always been. You see, as it has always been. Why is it that why are we able to keep the whole Democratic Party going? Because you know the Democratic Party is really supported by black people. The Democratic Party, if black people stop voting all together, the Democratic Party would fall. And that's what black people need to stop doing, because you ain't getting a goddamn thing for your vote. You ain't getting nothing. All you doing is going through the damn exercise. They ain't giving you a goddamn thing for your vote. That like they give all these other people. You voting for nothing. You voting for a damn exercise. It's just a mental exercise, because that's just a way for this government to check your temperature, to see what you thinking, to see what y'all really trying to do, like to see, because again, the people who are voting are not going to be in revolt. The people that vote are the people who are not in revolt. You follow what I'm saying? And again, if you're not getting anything for your vote, what is the point of you voting? Y'all just go through the damn exercise because y'all really think that by participating in this stuff that you're somehow a part of this society. You're really not. So, any more questions? Huh? Any more questions? No, that's it? All right. Let me make sure I got all my questions. All right, so that's it. I'm going to close out in the name of Amen. By the power of Amen. Amen we trust, and Amen we thank, and Amen we continue forward. We'll be doing another one of these in a week or so, probably a little less. I'm going to start, and I'm going to do my high and mighty talks. My thoughts where I'm going to just touch, my thoughts where I just touch on certain topics. I won't be on camera. I'm going to just do the audio to it and touch on certain topics and whatnot. So that's another thing I'm going to start, high and mighty thoughts. But with that, we out. You can close out. We out. Good night.